Kumar Ranjan Singh, Mr. Pradeep Bagla, Mr. Moses Charai, my colleague Noor Rahman Sheikh, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's really for me a very great pleasure to be here in Imphal. And it's a promise I think I made about 15 months ago. I made that promise to my ministerial colleague when he had just joined as Minister of State, and he asked me whether I'd been to Manipur, and said, somewhat defensively that I had not. And he said, you must come. So first of all, I want to thank him today. He has been really, in many ways, the person who's encouraged me and pushed me to come. I would have happily come. I mean, it is just partly COVID has been such a problem for all of us. And the two of us had to be in the country on the same day for this visit to happen, and that had its own challenges. Now, I listened very carefully to what Mr. Moses Charai said. I think he made two very important points. One, the extent of support and commitment and activity that is taking place today in the Northeast, including Manipur, is really unprecedented. But at the same time, I think he very legitimately raised the other aspect of it, which is, the external access, the recognition of products, the fact that when you look at the foreign trade volume, it is still there's still a long way to go. And I think that's absolutely a valid point, and it is in fact the challenge for which all of us are gathered here today. You would have all heard of our Act East policy, and before that it was called Look East policy. And about a decade ago, in fact, it used to be said that, instead of India looking east or acting east, maybe Delhi should look east and act east first. And in this last decade, it is actually today the vision, the leadership, the commitment of the Prime Minister, which my colleague Ranjanji spoke about, that you have today a Prime Minister of India who is absolutely determined that we must make up for lost time, and for all the constraints which history has, in a sense, bequeathed to the Northeast. So a lot of our efforts today is how do we deal with the structural problems that has kept really the Northeast so much at a disadvantage. Now, one part of it, of course, is to improve the connectivity within the Northeast, improve the connectivity from Northeast to other parts of India. But the part where we come in, the Ministry of External Affairs, is clearly in trying to ensure that there are ways by which there's a better access to global markets and global opportunities for the people and businesses of the Northeast. Now, I must say, even within the Northeast, actually, we do play a role. 5 years ago, in fact, we created a forum for one particular partner who was exceptionally committed here, which was Japan. So we had created something called the Act East Forum, and a number of projects have taken place under the aegis of the Northeast, of the Act East Forum, and they are financed by the Overseas Development Assistance of Japan. And I would really encourage the government of Manipur really to take full advantage of that. I know right now, my understanding is that there are 2 projects under discussion, but I have myself been to other states and seen some fairly impressive initiatives which have which are there on the ground. I would say, as a ministry which has oversight over that forum, please do really explore the opportunities there. Now, in terms of external access, obviously the two countries which are immediately relevant are Bangladesh and Myanmar. And with both of them, we are trying in different ways to improve connectivity and to improve business, including creating opportunities on the border hearts for border located businesses to happen. But also to see that whether our overall trade with these two neighbors can increase. Now, some of the frustrations which Mr. Moses Chalai voiced, I have certainly felt it from him, and obviously what I would be doing when I go back to Delhi is to request my colleagues dealing with Bangladesh to see what are the specific concerns here. Are there steps we should take to broaden the basket of goods that can be traded? But to my mind, unless we have connectivity, there cannot be trade without connectivity. And today, it may, you may not be necessarily a direct border state here, but in respect of Bangladesh, but if the regional connectivity actually improves, I think that is something clearly that Manipur can tap into. And if you look today with Bangladesh, our rail connection, our road connection, our waterway connection, all these have grown. We are trying to negotiate more smooth and obstacle-free movement of trucks and other logistics, also of railway wagons. We are trying to see whether we can mutually use each other's ports so that Bangladesh has more ports also in southeast India to access, and our northeastern states have the opportunity to access Chattogram and Mongla. So where Bangladesh is concerned, I do want to assure you, especially after the land boundary agreement, the level of confidence, the level of cooperation, the possibilities there, those have clearly grown. Having said that, I know it is hard work. I know that trade doesn't take place without a lot of effort and very hard negotiation. So that is something which will have to be done. But I can assure you that from the side of the central government and the Ministry of External Affairs, we will not just be supportive, we will be exceptionally supportive, because I think the situation warrants that. Where Myanmar is concerned, there are two big connectivity projects we are working on. One is the Sitwe port, and this is the Kaladan project. And the challenge there, as I think many of you know, the port has been created, but the road building to the port is posing huge challenges. It is also a part of Myanmar where there have been, not just now, but for some years now, some, I would say, law and order challenges, insurgency challenges, and that has definitely slowed down the work. The other big project, of course, which we are working on is the India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway. And there too, we've had problems. I'm quite candid about it. We've had problems in India in terms of work execution. We've had problems in Myanmar because of access and local mobilization issues. But we are hopeful that probably a more capable set of players on our side will take charge of this project by the end of the year and see how we move forward. Now, obviously, given the political situation in Myanmar, this is a challenge for us. So today for us, one of the primary reasons why we are engaging the authorities in Naypyidaw is precisely to advance this connectivity, this set of connectivity projects really, because some of them, one of them is a road and one of them is a set of 69 bridges. How do we really move this forward? Because if we can actually get physical connectivity through Myanmar to Thailand, and then beyond Thailand, already countries like Vietnam and Cambodia are showing interest. How do they link up on that side? It will actually be a game changer. So because we see that potential, it is something that we are actually prioritizing. We're putting all our efforts into seeing how can we, in a sense, break the current gridlock. Having said that, I also want to point out that there are two other neighbors who also offer business possibilities, Nepal and Bhutan. They may not be that proximate to you, but if we actually think of the entire region in a sense as a kind of a hub, if you think of a region as a hub where you really have Nepal, Bhutan on one side and Myanmar and Bangladesh below, and ASEAN a little bit beyond, I think it's important really to have that larger picture in mind, so that especially when it comes to building logistics and to put in place regimes to move this logistics, that to my mind would be some very helpful. Let me switch gears and talk about something a little bit different, but which also has a strong economic implication. And that is with regard to tourism. We are a country whose tourism potential is perhaps, in terms of what we have, whether it's nature or whether it is human talent, whether it is heritage, we have really underutilized our potential, under-leveraged our potential. And for some time now, Prime Minister has been actually pushing what he calls the 3 T's, which is trade, technology, and tourism, as the yardsticks by which he, in a sense, he sets for his own government, but also for all of us, in a way, to measure our performance. So we are today extremely keen to see how do we actually maximize tourism. And tourism also, like trade, requires connectivity, because at the end of the day, tourists have to find it convenient to reach places. Remote locations may look very good in a video, but you will never get the kind of footfalls which they truly deserve. So our effort today is to use the G20. The G20 presidency, which we will be assuming on the 1st of December. One part of it is to say, in international relations, it is a big moment. We are heading an important body. We have an opportunity to shape the agenda along with our other partners. But the other side of it is, if we actually, in a sense, depart from the traditional way of doing, these presidencies and summits, which is normally they happen in the capital of a country. So this time around, Prime Minister is very determined that it will be marked throughout the country, that we will use it as an opportunity to present India to the world, to bring foreigners, officials, civil society, political leaders, students to our country, to every part of our country, and to show them really what it is. And I can tell you by my own experience, I remember 2 years ago, Italy was then the G20 president. And the foreign ministers meeting of the G20 was not held in Rome, it wasn't held in a big city. It was actually held in a tourist place. I had to Google it to find out where it was. I'm a very well-traveled person. Of course, later on I discovered it was also the location where James Bond, the last movie, was shot. So, and I happened to even stay in the same hotel where James Bond was staying before me. But the point at issue was, they actually took remote locations and organized events there, so that actually got people going there. And after I went there, I can tell you for a few months I spoke about nothing else to my colleagues. I went and told them, we all go to Rome, but nobody ever goes to these places. This is like I would say southeastern Italy, and that's not a particularly frequented place. So my own personal experience is really how opportunities like G20 can be used to promote tourism. Now, related to that is, of course, this big push we are making for one district, one product. Again, there are many countries who have done very well with it by putting local products and local traditions forward. You have to go today to Thailand or to Indonesia to see really how well they have marketed it. So between stronger tourism and a greater promotion of local culture and local heritage, we do believe that there are big possibilities here. And the fact is, if you again look today at the size of the tourism industry, it is actually one of the biggest industries, one of the biggest economic activities in the world. That there are countries, who, big countries, for whom 25-30% of their entire GDP actually comes from earning out of tourism. So this is something, again, I would say for the region as a whole, but I would particularly for the state, I feel is something we should look at. The other point which I wanted to make is about people, because again, the point was made that the opportunities to work are not there, and I think it's a valid point. After all, one of the purposes of Atmanirbhar Bharat is to create an economic model which is employment focused. Till now what was happening, people were really looking at GDP growth as frankly the only yardstick of whether we're doing well or not. You can have a big spike in the GDP without necessarily a spike in employment. I mean, all you have to do, which actually was happening, is to import a lot of goods from some other big country, which one I'm talking about, and then use that to actually expand our businesses. Whereas what we had not done was really to build our own supply chains, to build our own MSMEs, so that, and that's a hard way of doing business, but it is still one today that we need to do. I think from the COVID era, we know COVID era and even the Ukraine conflict era, we know today we cannot be excessively dependent, excessively exposed to the rest of the world. Anytime, it could be a conflict, it could be a pandemic, it could be a climate event. There will be risks to our economy if we are really overly exposed to foreign dependencies. So I want to present to you a picture really where this is changing. And when I speak about addressing the employment problem, one of course is the hard way of creating more businesses in India. But there is also the other side, which is we should think of the world today not only as a marketplace, we should think of the world as a workplace. I have met young people from the state, not just in other parts of India, but in other parts of the world. So when I go to the Gulf, for example, very often people come up to me and tell them I'm from this state or that state, and I've encountered people from Manipur in my travels. So we are today also trying to access the global workplace. We had concluded a set of agreements, unfortunately the COVID came in the way, with Japan for what were called specialized, special skill workers in a way. in 22 professions. We certainly hope this will pick up because we have to teach them Japanese before we send them out. Those systems are now coming in place. I think the first lot of people have already gone to Japan. But with a number of other countries, we are concluding what we call migration and mobility partnership agreements. We have done this with UK, we have done this with France, we are very, very close to doing it with Germany, with Portugal. So we do want, I was in Australia and New Zealand exploring with them whether it is possible. Because in the world, where there is demand is not necessarily the place where there is young demographics. So there is a misalignment there, and that misalignment is our opportunity. And I'm sure that the youth of our country, especially those who are comfortable and global in their thinking, they are well poised to exploit this opportunity. So these were some of my thoughts which I wanted to share with you. I very much, of course, value the opportunity to be here, to see things for myself, meet people. But what I do want to assure all of you is that for us, this is a border state. It is a state where the Ministry of External Affairs will take continuous and strong interest. We do understand there are there will be challenges. There will be challenges, as I said, which are historically inherited. There are also challenges sometimes which come out of a situation across the border. But in all of this, my ministry is very, very committed to supporting the economic growth of the entire Northeast region, including the state of Manipur. Once again, really thank you all for coming here today. And I think if there is time, if there's questions, I'd be very happy to respond to any concerns you may have.